bottom left-hand side, and you have the red Terran player as we go into actual best of fives this time around because it's the winners match. So everything else in this group will be best of five. So 3 best of fives to round this group out. Starting with the red Terran bottom left, it's Clem from Team Liquid, of course. As in the top right, Blue Prolus from Alpha Rex, it is Zoun. Let's get ourselves into game 1 of this best of 5. Fresh new series, and kind of intrigued to see if Zoun's going to do anything other than 4-gate blink, because that's how he's played this so far. He has just been he's just been kind of in a position where he's 4-gate blinked every game, and I'm still yet to be convinced by this 4-gate blink as well. Like, I'm looking at this 4-gate blink style, and I'm like, he does not make it look good. You know, you look at Parting playing 4-gate blink, and I'm like, yeah. You know, I see 4-gate blink, and I'm like, you know what? 4-gate blink's pretty OP. I watched Zoun play 4-gate blink. I'm like, man, Terran's so sick. You build like a tank and a bunker, and you just can't kill anything. Incredible. So, yeah, no, it's definitely been a bit of a a bit of a funky situation, as we do see our command center going down and building up there in the natural expansion. And this probe just backing off. SCV is going to come scouting in, and we wait to see what the tech choice of Zoun would be. I mean, in the best of 5 as well, more room to play with different builds as well. Maybe he goes 4-gate blink on the opener, but then you go into something more like a Stargate on the next game and mix it in a little bit. This map of 4-gate blink is okay. It's kind of a long rotation between the main and this main edge and this natural ramp. And to ramp up into the natural. So I think this is actually one of the worst maps for playing 4-gate blink on if you're going to play it. I think it's not necessarily the worst because there is blinking potential to the main, but it's definitely not one of the better ones. So we'll see what Zoun wants to do here as Clem's build. Just factory on the way. Second gas coming through. Everything kind of lining up for Clem pretty regularly at the moment. One of the big things about this map is you can build the Twilight Council without it being seen, or whatever tech you choose you can build without being seen off of this pylon. Usually, in most Reaper walls, you actually need to have the pylon as part of the wall. But on this map, you can Reaper wall and not have the pylon part of the wall, so the Twilight Council can go unscouted, unless the Reaper goes through the natural into the main base. So that's a nice little something to know, and it does mean that he can kind of get away with this kind of build without it being figured out at all. And he starts to wall off now with the Robo, which to me says probably 4-gate blink again. That or you're going to goes for a big switch up in the form of a Dark Shrine. But Robo facility before any extra gateways is almost always a sign of the aggressive side of things, because it means you want to rush out a Prism. And there it is, Dark Shrine. So it's not going to be blink. He is going to change it up. And that could kind of work as well. If Clem's just watched that last series and he starts to see this, he's like, oh man, you're going to go 4-gate blink again. Because it looks very similar, especially based on what Clem scouts. He gets up here, he's like, oh wait, that's a Robo facility, etc. You know, that's the sort of information as Clem that you pick up on now, and you're like, okay, well, maybe you're 4-gate blinking me like I just watched you do 3 times in a row against Hero Marine. But in fact, it's the Dark Shrine. So, again, it looks very similar on the outset. It's a little difficult to pick up those differences. As that pylon goes off over to the side here from Zoun, once you get that vision through the top portion of the map. You're not going to see the medevac on the way, and the first couple Widow Mines on the way through. Is the starport going to get a tech lab? It is. Is it going to build a Raven when the tech lab is done? That's the next question. If you know, there's 2 barracks already coming in here, they're positioned to jump onto those tech labs. Tech lab on the starport about to be done. He is going to build a Raven. Okay, so Clem is going to go for the route of making sure he's okay. Now, he sees the 3rd base timing as well, which tells him this is not 4-gate blink. As a couple of Stalkers get here, good position right away. I'm just going to keep the medevac there for a little while longer. Once DT shows up in the natural, obviously no Raven just yet. Clem sees it a little bit ahead of the first swipe, so he starts to pull SCVs away. He'll lose 3 SCVs, maybe 4. There's obviously 1 DT in the main base as well. Oh, nice catch. Beautiful. SCV surround as well. DT doesn't run out of there. And that means that Clem actually gets the kill rather than escaping away via the prism, which happens oh so often in these scenarios. As the Raven's about to be done now, he's actually going to send the Raven into the main, use that as detection there as he scans the natural for a second DT kill. And he just got 5 kills with the Widow Mines as well, by the way. So Clem is winning this game. He has shut down 2 DTs. He's taken less work damage than what he's done with the Widow Mine drop. This is really bad for Zoun. He has not gotten done what he needs to get done here. He absolutely needed to find a little bit more in this as this Prism is going to load up again and bring these DTs around. Obviously, still going to try and buy time with these. Intrigued that they're still DTs rather than having tried to morph them into Archons now. I guess the only downside of that is if you want to morph Archons, you'd have to morph one more than what's already here, and you'd have to go into 4 DTs. Now, that means you would have built 6 DTs in total. Already having built 5, I'd say, is a little bit more than what you really would have wanted to initially go for. Misplay by Zoun. He's going to miss lifting up a DT, so another DT falls. Every time a Dark Templar goes down, there's just such a huge money investment as I'm going to spot this Observer, and he's going to be like, yeah, get out of here. Didn't get the Marines there in time. With a defense like this, Clem's obviously now building into units which are ready in for the big push, and I feel like once this big push comes along, it'll absolutely become pretty exciting as the Raven is there. The Prism escapes off to the left-hand side. And we have got the bio units still moving around, so they're going to go up the left, chasing the Prism away to the top. Again, a few extra Stalkers coming in. The Colossus is Corona boosting out as well. +1 attack and the charge continue to come on through as Clem makes his way up to the top side of the map. So, Clem moving through. We do see extra units coming across, and a couple of these Stalkers firing away, and Archon of Zoun finishes morphing. Clem ready to push forward a little bit further again. Observer taking a bit of damage. Tanks are going to get ready to siege. And this is the moment where we check to see if Zoun really has been able to get enough up off of this opener. No extended thermal lance on the Colossus, and it's not even on the way, and that's got to be a big concern as, well, yeah, this is weird, right? Widow Mines are going off already. He's cleaned out the defense on the third base. The Colossus gets matrixed. I mean, the tank is just on its own, but it doesn't even really matter. Second Colossus pops out, but still low range, so going to be hard for this Colossus to really stay in the fight. And actually coming around this left side, there's no ledge for it to go up or down there, so that's not pretty. As Clem, it was also kind of weird from Clem because the tank was abandoned, so it could have been done better from him. He almost found too many opportunities all at once and not really being able to choose which opportunity to kind of make full advantage of. He's ended up losing out on quite a bit of, I'd say, potential damage as well there. So, some positives, some negatives. An interesting few moments as we get into this and see what happens. So, a couple of units from Zoun still moving down. Gonna get in. First SCV goes down. Zealots move into this mineral line. Widow Mines blow those up with ease. Well, Zoun really kind of going for this. I mean, just before Clem has any sort of real anti-Colossus play, the Archon here going to make life tough as well. Clem kind of backed into a corner. Now coming around the right side, he's going to flank with the Widow Mines. They're going to burrow up on top of Colossi. He gets rid of 1 and 2. Now the Prism saves the Colossus as well, and Clem is in some serious trouble. Zoun is absolutely just continuing to clean on up. That previous fight from Clem across the map, it felt like he had such an opening, but like I said, it was almost like he had too many options as to what to go for. Let's have a quick look at it again. I felt like he didn't quite know what to do for the best in that position because the third was kind of wide open, but then his tank was sieged to the right-hand side to cover the ram. He hit the Matrix on the Colossus and then didn't even really fight it. It's a weird fight, right? Like I say, the tank's to the right, he's like, he wants to pressure the natural, and he's like, wait a sec. Nothing in the third. What he maybe should have done here is hard commit for the third base probe line or something. Because what he does is the Marauders turn around, they kind of fight on their own. He gets rid of the batteries and stuff, but like, it's just a little bit of neither here nor there. And then he chases forwards into the Colossi, you take some extra damage there. And what do you really get done? Well, you actually lose your tank and a bit more. And then there's obviously Colossi you can't really deal with back at home. Zoun takes map to the bottom right-hand side of the map. Alright, Terran play here. Down a map is going to be Team Liquid's Clem. just really got caught in a bad fight down that bottom left side, and he was running out of space to run away and to kite away from. This is in the upper left. Blue Protoss player is going to be Zoun, as we get ourselves ready for game number 2 of this best of 5 series. Yeah, probe heading down the bottom right and coming through. Yeah, I don't think Clem could have killed the third base, because I think obviously if you go up to the third base and start fighting it, Zoun does have batteries he can target onto the Nexus, and he obviously does bring the army up that ramp. I feel like you could have killed probes and maybe gotten out. Was it the medevac count was maybe just the issue, so he didn't have enough evacuation potential? It was kind of a weird one. It was definitely felt as though Clem should have been able to get more done in the situation, but wasn't able to in the end. But it's also weird because it also felt like Zoun, like his Zealots kind of ran into the fight on their own as well, and yeah. And some interesting TvPs today. We're getting a lot of TvPs, obviously, going from the, considering the way that the winners and elimination match lined up, we've obviously got 2 more TvPs, this one and the next one, and then we'll see what we end up with on the decider match of the day for Group B here at Stay At HomeStory Cup. And just a reminder that if you want to watch the main stream, twitch.tv/TakeTV, Serral versus Zest currently ongoing in that ZVP. So if you want to go and check that out. Then feel free. Heroes can fail with DTs and not be behind. They can, but this was a... The thing is, when you lose, this wasn't just a fail with DTs, this was like a hard fail with DTs, because they really did nothing at all. As this probe's going to scout the proxied factory. They, like, not only did they do nothing, but he lost workers on the other side of the map as well, and he lost multiple DTs, right? So, it was really bad in every way. He lost 3 DTs to kill 1 less worker than what the Widowmine's got. That is never going to be a lead for Zoun. That's absolutely him being behind, and that doesn't mean that you can't win a game from there. He just did. But it doesn't mean he's fine in the game. It means he has to make a play to get back into it. And look at the position he was in. He didn't have Colossus range or anything for that fight. And Clem had not, Clem's army was actually terrifying against what Zoun had, but Clem, as mentioned, took a bad fight, right? And that happens. So yeah, no, it's yes, you can. It's not like an all-in. It's not like you must win the game with the DTs. But any sort of pressure build where you delay other tech to kind of go for an attack like that or harassment like that, and you don't succeed in harassment and you also lose out on the investment, you're always going to come out behind on that. He's actually going to catch a Stalker, which is out through to this top side. Nice little positioning here. We do see the Stalker gets taken down. It's a nice catch as it was just going off to hit the factory. As 2 Hellions run by into this mineral line. Battery is here, but so Hellions are going to try and get up into the main. There's a Widow Mine building in the main base off this proxied factory now. 1 Hellion will not do anything, and these Marines all turned away as well, so not really much success there at all just yet. He's going to have this factory tonight too. This is not a good opening from Clem. Everything he's tried to do early has been unsuccessful. The only good thing was catching the Stalker, which came out to the right-hand side. So being able to pick up that kill was pretty nice. But other than that, yeah, everything's kind of going wrong for Clem. And behind this, we see 2 extra gates. Wouldn't be surprised to... Yeah, this is actually 4 gates already. So just going 4-gate blink. This is the kind of opening where 4-gate blink on the follow-up can do so well, because your factory isn't at home. So defensive tanks that are almost always a key portion of defending against, 4-gate blink, they're going to be very late. The only other way you really defend 4-gate blink usually is obviously bunkers, and, if you go in bunkers with no tanks, it's usually because you've got triple racks, right? And you're going to go into, stim. Well, this is not a game where you're going to have stim and combat shields early either, so, yeah, these Stalkers have to stay home to defend this drop, but they get a few kills, and I wouldn't mind seeing these guys coming across the map right now as well either, just because of the fact that even if this drop still exists, it's not enough in it now to really create any kind of proper pressure. It's been, you know, it's to the point where like a warping can really handle this well as Zoun. He's going to leave those Stalkers at home, so being very cautious about this, as he is going to be up against now a couple of Marauders in this main, and I think Clem might just about have enough. Stalkers go blinking in. So I think he's got enough to defend, especially because it's only 4 Stalkers. They come through. 3 SCVs going down. And just going to be seeing the Prism escaping her way through the bottom side. Stalkers come up, a couple of Marines start to go down here. We're just going to be seeing the damage being done. So a couple of units going down, charges on the way through. Just going to be seeing the gateways over on the right, Forge coming through. So again, not really needing to do too much with this. Again, Zoun really feels like he has this kind of weird style of 4-gate blink where he doesn't ever actually want to commit with the larger army. And with the larger Stalker count, but I really feel like back in the Hero Marine series as well, that he's actually had a lot of chances with the larger Stalker army to really do great things, and especially in this game, I think he should have really tried to pressure it further, because now, Clem's actually got a pretty sizable bioforce up, right, so these Stalkers get turned around, but beforehand, there was a huge timing window where Clem had, you know, a few Marines, a couple of Marauders, and if you just have the 4 extra Stalkers across the map, I think Zoun can push through and have a great time every single time. Fire comes across, going to be stimming in, just going to be going for the a little bit of the stack defense here, but obviously Zoun gets a Colossus in position, and Clem is unable to really continue up the front there. I like this, just loading up and going for the main base instead. Only 3 Stalkers, Clem's not going to be bothered by those, he's going to dive in anyway, and we'll get the full unload, so now Zoun has to bring his units over here. Clem doesn't have anything to strike elsewhere with just yet. A couple units running into the natural. Zoun is going to turn this one around, so these medevacs at least evacuating some units, but now these units that are kind of running forwards aren't having a good time. Watch this on the left-hand side, a Widowmine drop. So going to unload Widowmine number 1, going to unload Widowmine number 2, not just yet, but it's going to go into the natural. There's some Zealots across the map. If they get a cancel on the 3rd CC, that'd be massive. There's a few of them that went towards the army just now. They're going to get a cancel on the 3rd base. Massive play from Zoun. That's going to be replacing the 3rd CC right here as the Prism escapes back out the left-hand side. Another Widowmine goes down behind the mineral line. Another few High Templar just warping in, the extra Zealots as well, and getting ready to go for a little push in towards the 3rd base as the bio army of Clem. I mean, he obviously wants to try and get stuff done right now, but this army of Zoun's coming across the map, and this is not really a fight that's set up for Clem to win at all. This is a better fight setup than what Zoun had last game when he ended up winning the game. He's going to get the 3rd CC. Clem's going to base trade it. Probably the best decision he could make right now. You know, you're going to lose the 3rd anyway. If you take a fight, you're maybe not really favored in the engagement either. At least by base trading, you're going to make the game weird enough that you give yourself a chance of winning the game. So let's see what Zoun does. I mean, he's killed the bases so quickly here. If he had a recall in the natural, would I have liked him to recall the natural? Maybe, maybe not. Units continue up in towards the main base. Structures continuing to go down. The question is, when does Zoun decide to turn it around and bring it back home, right? It used to be a thing, never base trade a Terran, but actually I think nowadays not base trading a Protoss player is a pretty reasonable phrase as well, because of the fact that obviously, you know, stuff like the stuff such as like recall is very powerful in a base trade scenario. Oh, these Liberators are here. Maybe this is where you kind of decide to pull it away. It would be nice to take the fight and to clean up all of this, but it becomes very expensive fighting into Liberators. You clean up some of the structures, you at least break the Sim City down. Clem's on his way back home. He left the main base up, so it's main base versus main base right now. In this case, it's probably best for Zoun to trade out, because then he's going to fight half the army versus half the army, or obviously it's not quite half, right? But he's going to fight a portion of the army versus another portion of the army. The medevacs get sniped down as well. So now Clem only has what he's bringing back home, and that's critical, because now I just don't think that's ever going to be enough, and Zoun is going to take a 2-0 lead in the best of 5, and Clem is on the ropes, as Zoun is showing up today in the Stay At HomeStory Cup round of 16. A minute late jumping into this, as it's an engineering bay block from Clem. So slowing down Zoun's natural expansion a little bit here. So switching it up, I can get behind that. You're down 0-2. Definitely not a bad time to change it up a little bit, right? Access just at home. Generally, you will go factory before you expand here with the engineering bay block. The engineering bay takes up some of your minerals. You have the gas right away to factory, so that's typically how things go. And then, obviously, because you maybe sometimes force an earlier unit or so with this engineering bay block, it also gives you that factory a little bit sooner to help deal with that as well. So, positives on that all around. Nexus is on the way. So finally able to get that started at least, and we do have our factory going to be finishing in just a few moments. Green comes in, deals a bit of damage, puts some hits on the probe. Man, if Zoun comes through in 3-0's Clem, what happens next? You know, I did say at the start of the stream that I really believed anybody could win this group. And I did preface that by saying that I thought Zoun was obviously the least likely candidate for that, perhaps. But it was not, you know, it was still possible in my eyes. If he does it by 3-0 in Clem, though, that is like, wow. If I saw Zoun advancing here, I think the way I saw him advancing was obviously you have to beat Hero Marine. I say advancing, I mean in first place, because I talked about that specifically. I kind of saw him advancing against Hero Marine, but probably winning against Showtime in like PvP. I didn't really think he'd take Hero Marine and then Clem on in PvT. And obviously it's not a done deal yet, but 2-0 up gives them a lot of room to work with. We're going to go Dark Shrine opening here for game number 3. Now, this is very different to the Dark Shrine in game number 1. So, there's no Robo, right? So there's not a Robo, and that means that you're going to be able to just walk these DTs across the map, but you're not going to be able to drop on into the main base or anything. So there's something there to kind of think about. It's kind of weird because it almost feels like it's just a less effective build. Is it a bit less committed? Well, you don't have to build a prism. So in that regard, kinda, yeah, but I feel like what you get out of the prism is obviously a lot of value in terms of just being able to put DTs in different places and so on, so I'm really interested in just how Zoun goes about utilizing this Dark Shrine, given the situation now. It's very possible this DT could be used as a bit of a defense here against what Clem is doing. You know, against this first push that's coming his way. It may be an adjustment he makes based on the fact that Clem obviously opened factory before he expanded this game, right? So it could be an adjustment in that regard. And then you just look to use the DT one offensively like this, and you can also use one defensively if you expect an attack coming your way. Because now Clem actually has no scans available. Detection isn't ready. These DTs are actually going to have a really good time. And then you're going to have to figure out how you're going to defend this at home as Clem deal with this on this side of the map as well. Clem's going to come straight through, but he's going to realize like there's no units here, man. Warps in a Stalker, Zoun. And try and get some units up. The DTs do start to make their way into the main base, and they're going to deny the turrets. They're in the natural as well, so damage is being done, guys. All you have to do, I mean, right now, missile turret on the way offensively. This is why the first Stalker warping should have been a DT, because the DT could have already been kind of shutting this down. Go deny the turret! Oh, he could have had the SCV that was building the turret. That would have been absolutely massive. But now there's a turret up, the DT will obviously not do as well itself. There's going to be a second tank here, so Clem's attack still has some potential. The turret got up in the main base. There's still a DT in the natural. What was actually killed here overall? 14 SCVs. Apparently we didn't host this one with GameHot, so I apologize for that, guys. No worker kills coming up on the side of your screen. Oh, this Immortal is massive. If you don't get the Immortal out, you're in some serious trouble here. Tank's going to finish it up. We're going to move forward with the probes as well. Stalker's trying to help out. Oh my god, the probes are going to help to get rid of a siege tank. The other tank is in some trouble, but not enough trouble. I think Zoun is dead as Clem has just about held on. Wow. That's an impressive hold, considering he had like 0 scans when 2 DTs showed up on the other side of the map. Still has scan problems, right? But again, he got this turret up, and maybe you could bring this down to what Zoun did wrong, right? Maybe if he was... I mean, it's obviously tough, you're in multiple places, but this turret was killable. He could have denied this turret from getting up. He denied it initially, but then he went for more SCVs, and he didn't go back to deny the turret again. He can still stand by. A faster DT here could have defended this, and even the DT he had could have stopped the missile turret from getting up. Oh, he's actually going to get the siege tank kill now. DT should win this fight, so he is going to clean it up in the end. Down 4 workers. His only army unit is this Dark Templar, though. Like, he has nothing. He just cancelled Blink. That was quite far along. And goes Charge instead. I don't mind that. I think Stalk has become very expensive right now. And while Blink has a good amount of utility to it, I think the straight-up army of just Charge is going to be a bit better. And what he might be able to do is he might be able to, with all these extra gates finishing, maybe do something like an Archon Charge Lot attack and just see if he can break Clem down in the relatively near future as he moves forward with this DT. The turret is... There's like a fine line of where this turret detects, right? It's about here, and he just about got there to get an SCV. There is a scan available. At this point, Clem should always maintain like at least a scan just in case of an emergency, you know, against the DTs necessary. Builds the gateway across the map now as well. Ooh, there's the Raven. Yeah, this gateway is going to be, obviously, like I say, it's going to turn this into an Archon Charge Lot attack, right? And I think it makes a lot of sense given the position. It's the kind of thing that can just win you the game. Let's see what happens. I mean, there's a couple of tanks up. The thing about tanks here is, don't get me wrong, tanks obviously do good damage, but if there are units tanks don't do good damage against, it's kind of Zealots and Archons. You know, if there's anything you'd want against tanks, I'd take Zealots and Archons over pretty much any other... you know, in terms of surviving, you know, running into a fight, maybe Immortals as well, obviously pretty good, but that's around, like, the best stuff you can get in terms of survivability running into this. A Sentry on the way, not sure what you'd use the Sentry for here. If the Sentry was warped in earlier, I wouldn't mind a Guardian Shield, but obviously at this stage, a little late for that. Hey, if there's ever a time to push these tanks, that one was just relocating. There's not a lot on this natural. I mean, this bunker's going to go down. Like I say, the tank fire will add on to this. Double Order Turret comes in to buy some time, thanks to the Raven. Archons move to the ramp. They do not have the Zealots in front of them, so they're taking a beating from the bio units. Obviously, derping up the ramp as well is not pretty. The Zealots are still going to get a decent amount of SCVs, but this was Zoun's army that has now gone down. And again, there's no other tech to this, right? I mean, it is just Charge Lot Archon. The follow-up to this is really very limited as... Oh, the depot got down as well, so he doesn't even get in on top of the siege tanks here in the main base. Nice unsiege, protects from any friendly fire. I feel like those Zealots maybe could have waited for another Archon or so, but I think it is starting to tail off into Clem's favor. Incredible defense from Clem. It was never going to be easy playing against those DTs when they came into your main base, and naturally you don't have scans, you're trying to attack as well. Beautiful defense from Clem, very well played, and able to claw this series back a little bit, put a point on the board, and keep his hopes alive. Unless this attack somehow manages to do it, but Clem knows what's coming now, so he walls off, he sims cities. Tell you what, the tanks being in the main base was huge from Clem, so that was a great play, because if those tanks were in the natural, and he loses them, very different situation. You know, the Sim City here is just going to make this a massacre. High unit stim with +1 attack as well, so they're shredding through the Zealots, and Zoun has to get out of the game to give Clem a game in the series. As we have in the top left-hand side, Red Terran player, it is going to be Team Liquid's Clem. So needs to win 2 in a row to advance out of this group in first place. Obviously, a better seed into the round of 8 is obviously always desired. As we have in the bottom right, our Blue Protoss Zoun. Honestly, not just the seed. I mean, anybody you play in the round of 8 of Stay At HomeStory Cup is going to be really good. Maybe you can avoid a Raynor, you avoid a Cyril by getting first seed, which would be good, but I think the other thing is actually just this group is not going to be easy to advance from still. You know, we've got Showtime and Hero Marine in the elimination match. Those two have just sat back waiting for for their best of 5 to begin. One of those two are going out. One of those two will be eliminated by the end of the next series. Like, that's crazy. And then the winner of that has to play the loser of this to fight for a place in the round of 8. That's how stacked this tournament is right now. Was it impossible for Zoun to take a macro game there? It's a decent question. I think it's not impossible, but he's definitely behind, right, in terms of the tech. So what he did was, by going for like a charge.archon attack, he basically attacked when Clem's tech advantage was going to be minimal. You know, he attacked around just before upgrades were finishing. I don't know if they just finished, but it was his best chance to kind of fight before Clem's tech advantage got away with, got it into a good position in the game. The problem for Zoun is by the time he starts a Robo Bay, by the time he starts going into a Colossus, you'll also remember down on just 2 bases here, which usually want to be on 3 bases across. There's a lot you have to afford from Zoun off of a weak economy because you lost quite a few probes to clean up that attack. And affording all of that's going to take a while. By the time you realistically get all of it up, Clem's going to be knocking on your front door with an attack. So I do think it was better to do something quick that you already had the tech for, that was able to bring the fight to Clem. I just think it would have taken Zoun a little bit too long to go into all of those things. Especially because what Clem's attack was never really... Because Clem didn't have to deal with the DTs for as long. He was already on his way to extra production, the stim pack starting, etc., right? And if Zoun had just cleaned up that first, that attack of Clem so much sooner, like a minute or two sooner, and he'd already started teching up, 3rd base down, it's a completely different scenario. Maybe then he can. Yeah, and I don't necessarily think it's per se impossible for him to macro out of that position. I think it's going to be very tough. But I think from his point of view, the easier and most likely to succeed option probably is the one where you go aggressive. Because I will stand by, if Clem has those tanks on the low ground and Zoun runs in, he might just win the game. Even if the Archons didn't chase up the ramp, maybe you can deny the natural and make something happen from there as well. Man, Zoun is really good at scouting with these SCVs, by the way. He finds the proxied factory again. There's not been a single time in this series where Clem has successfully proxied without Zoun knowing about it. So Zoun just on top of everything right now. Knowing exactly what's going on. And that pulls out down the bottom side. Just going to be seeing the starport of Clem on the way into the main base. Bunker is at the front here. A couple of extra Marines going to rally into that. Phoenix on the way up, about halfway done. Warp gate coming through on the Cybercore. And Zoun, biggest change-up we've seen of him all day, right? We've not seen him play a Stargate in any of his PVTs, where this is his 7th map of PVT we're watching. And we're seeing for the first time a non-Twilight Council opener. So he's going to open with all of these Phoenix. Obviously, you kind of know that this is an opening where Clem doesn't have factory units early in the game because he gave up the factory position and floated it home. So with no factory units, the only thing that can hit you is like a Marine drop, right? I mean, trying to think what else you could come up with here. Obviously, like maybe like a Liberator or something, or a Viking. I mean, whatever you go for, the Phoenix are going to be good against all of it. So, yeah. And if that factory kind of lands and doesn't go all the way back home and tries to be aggressive as well, Phoenix will be good in that role as well. So I kind of like that, as we do see the Marines going to start unloading into the main base. Phoenix going to come through. They're actually going to lift up a couple of Marines. So obviously the Phoenix may actually... This might be the one attack that the Phoenix are not super good against, because usually they'd like to kind of deal with these attacks as they come in. But obviously not ideal against the Marines. The Adepts show up now. You do not want to lose any more probes, really. He's going to lose 5 workers. Okay, 5 workers. You do get the cleanup on the medevac and the Marines, but I think 5 workers is huge, because it's not also just 5 workers. It's 5 workers and the Phoenix on low energy. So if the Phoenix are also on low energy, there's not as much they can do to counterattack and harass anymore. So that takes away a lot of Zoun's options as well. Having to use so many of those lifts on Marines is absolutely far from the ideal. SCVs go down. The Phoenix is going to loop around. Marines coming in. The Phoenix still chased away through the top of the map. Stimpack and Combat Shield coming in. +1 attack. Also on the Engineering Bay. It's going to be seeing Zoun loop around through the center. Gonna go out over to the left and make his way up into the main base again to try and see just what is going on. Cyclone gets a little lock on to the Phoenix, by the way, as well. So the Phoenix get pushed back and just going to be seeing the Observer of Zoun continuing to make its way forward. So coming out to watch at the front, Stim, Combat Shield, and +1 attack all coming through. Got a couple turrets on the way, and Twilight Council and the Forge building from Zoun in the main base as well. So all of that coming up too. And yeah, some extra gateways going to be finishing from Zoun in the main base, so getting those up and running. Some probes come across into the third. And Zoun's Phoenix just going to make their way around the left-hand side now. So Phoenix going to move around the left, going to come through, lift up an SCV. Bit of back and forth as we do see the Marine tank Marauder force gonna come around this bottom side. Gonna see a bit of a push then from Clem. So what he's aiming to do now is obviously put some pressure on. These Phoenix have not been super useful just yet. Like I say, obviously the initial defense wasn't ideal for them, and they lost a lot of their energy. SCV should just be able to keep a tank alive here. So this is also just a lift that will not amount to anything. I'm actually still kind of worried about how many lifts they have, as I mean, units pushing across the map. There is only one tank here from Clem, so I guess they don't need a lot of lifts. He's going to get positioned right on top of the third base. Zoun needs to come down and start contesting this. He's going to pop a Guardian Shield. Again, only one tank. He lifts it up with the Phoenix. Okay, I mean, like I say, you only needed one lift up here, and the force fields are good. That's a beautiful defense from Zoun. Very well positioned, and able to push this army of Clem back with relative ease, all things considered. I wasn't too happy with what the Phoenix had done this game, but honestly, they did exactly what they needed to there. And we're getting to the point now where they've got that resources loss climbing up in their favor, and they've got their energy back so they can do more harassing damage. Delay the third base right here. I mean, we're getting to a point where the Marines in that army aren't necessarily enough to fight the Phoenix off, so you need to be careful, right? Just if the Phoenix go and lift up all the Marines, there's absolutely potential they can get rid of the anti-air when the army was still split up. Maybe not so much now, as everything joins up together again. Phoenix going to move down the right-hand side. We do see another Phoenix just popping out. Blink is on the way with the +1 attack upgrade, making movements on the Forge. A second Forge will drop down in the main base as well. Alright, well, Clem's just going to have to sit back at home for a few moments until he feels good to move on the map again. It's kind of a weird one when Phoenix is on the map, right? Because of the Terran right now, you're like, well, a straight-up forward attack shouldn't work. You know, he's got Colossi, etc. Phoenix can lift up my tanks and dislodge them. But then the Phoenix also stop you from doing so much when it comes to dropping on the map as well. So if you want to try and split up your army and drop in places, it's not impossible to make it work. If you get by the Phoenix and get into bases, and fantastic, 10 out of 10, you're going to do a very good job. The problem is, if the Phoenix catch the drops, then obviously you're in a lot of trouble, and that's what the Phoenix can really do. They can shut down areas, and the vision on the map is so good from Zoun that you're not getting into any of the main base, at least, without being seen. The left side's a little bit better, but then, yeah, I mean, maybe you drop down the left side, maybe that's your route. That's definitely the opening. Of course, Clem doesn't necessarily know the exact vision setup of Zoun, though, so hard to know that for sure as well. Dark Shrine on the way. We have actually started moving to disruptor production, so obviously the typical next step. Feels like we're starting to see an actual bit of a later game here from Zoun, which is funny because it feels like none of his games have transitioned to this stage of the game where we actually have the second set of splash damage on the field. But here we are now. First disruptor shot here could be big as, oh no, Clem! He's pulling on the boys. This is not what you need. He's got a disruptor flank as well. He's going to bring this one down. Tanks on siege to deny it. The Marauders will not do enough. The disruptor connected. I'm not sure what it really hit though. Oh my god, there's definitely not a good start to the fight for Clem at all. I mean, the good news is the Disruptors are obviously going to get taken down because they're pretty far out of position. Here come the Phoenix lifting up the tanks. It's pure bio as the Colossi come in. Phoenix being targeted down. A couple tanks going to drop back into the fight. Does Zoun have enough? Doesn't seem like it at the moment. Clem still has a sizable army down here. Some Vikings still alive, so the Colossi is still under threat. Right, with the SCV pull as well. Man, that second Disruptor just didn't quite find the money shot, huh? It felt like it went right into the army, but I think it just clipped a tank and found like a little gap that Clem split away from. There we go, another Disruptor here now. Does need to deliver a connection. Tanks target fired it. It hits the tanks, but then it goes down. Yeah, it's tough because now these tanks being repaired, so that Disruptor shot's basically fully wasted. And Zoun just does not have the army supply to stay in. There's a few Zealots flank in, but way too soon. They went in before anything else was ready. I mean, this Terran army is low HP, right? He stimmed a few times. As he moves forwards here, fights without the tank fire in full force. It maybe gives Zoun a little bit of a chance to hold 53 to 99 army supply. Zoun up an attack upgrade as well. Is there a world he can give up this 4th base? Maybe that becomes the play. I don't know if that's the play right now. Gets a siege tank for with the Disruptors. I think it is. You're losing the position. And you're going to go to the bottom left with a 4th instead. Well, Clem is only on 42 workers, so even 3 bases is enough to really sustain against 42 workers. So Zoun's economy isn't bad, and his army supply is catching up. Backing away from that fight, the best thing he's done in a little while. He's building a couple of Immortals now rather than Colossi or more Disruptors, which is interesting. They will build nice and quick. They're going to be good against the tanks. They're going to be good against Marauders. Here he goes. Zoun commits in. The Phoenix that's still around finds a lift. Disruptor shots flying through. Zoun's going to back away again, but the army supplies this time really are staying fairly even. Oh, Zoun just loses out on that Disruptor. Disruptor shot still... I hate this overlay. I can't actually see where the Disruptor shots are at when I select them all. Okay, well, Disruptors will get their shots back soon. I'm still in an annoying position here, but I think he's just lost too much at this stage. Beautiful defense from Zoun. From the first Disruptor shot that he lines up from a distance to the patience he kind of shows fighting against this, right? He doesn't go running in too soon. He really does at some point say, right, I can't fight this anymore. Got to give up the 4th base. It was a really well executed defense from Zoun. There was a couple Disruptor shots I disagreed with, but I liked that all of the fights he tried to take. He knew when to back off, and he knew that time was on his side. Well handled by Zoun. He wins it 3-1 over Clem, and he goes to the quarterfinals and into that